Um, you're going to kind of have to excuse the lighting. Uh, I'm not a director or I don't know much about all this video stuff, so I'm not even worried about all that. But I really don't care if you see me. I really just, as usual, want you to hear what I got to say. Just want to get some things off my chest, try to help open up some minds and expand some consciousness and whatnot on this beautiful spring day. Um, what's on my mind today? Uh, I frequently have these debates with people about this system of oppression, and whether or not it's by design or if it's like coincidence. If you're a free thinking adult, there's no way you should believe in coincidence. We go back and forth all the time about, the white establishment this, the white establishment that, they're playing this, whatever you want to call it. I personally believe that it is everything that we live under, everything is by design. The design is to keep people down, not just people of color. There are many ways of keeping people down. There's debt. It's the number one thing that keeps people down and keeps them subdued and keeps them doing things a certain way you want them to do them. But I could go on into that another day because I did a lot of research and whatnot geared towards a certain ideology that I want to talk about today. That the debt thing, that's a whole nother thing that we'll have to talk about at a later date after I do a little bit more research and put together some ideas and thoughts on that subject more. But today's thought that I want to talk about is the white establishment and whether or not it's independent or whether it's still dependent upon our action or lack of action in order to survive. I personally don't believe that it is independent. I believe that it's very much dependent on certain truths remaining true, certain facts continuing to happen, certain actions continuing to be perpetuated. So, just think about this for a second. If justice was really justice in this country, would this system of oppression be able to stand as it does? Like, for instance, would we be able to have these bloated and overpopulated police forces? Would we be able to build prisons in cities that are poor, like Philadelphia, investing $400 million in a prison project, but they don't have any money for the schools, supposedly? Would those kind of things be able to happen if this system of justice was really about justice? I don't think so. Like, their plan is to keep people, the recidivism rate, their plan is to keep people going back to jail, to keep people on drugs, to keep the violence and everything going, because without it, everything that they rest on would collapse. Simply put, if you don't put people in jail, you have no reason for the bloated police forces, the prisons, the bail bondsmen, the corrections officers, the probation officers, the rehab programs, and all this other nonsense that they put out there that they say is to help and say is to make us feel safer, when really it's just to keep their way of life going, to keep their foot on the lesser man's, the poorer man's neck, namely the people of color. Let's just think one day if there weren't anybody else to arrest. If everybody just woke up and decided that we're not even going to give you the opportunity to arrest us anymore. We're going to put down the drugs, put down the guns, and put down the violence. If everybody stopped that, you know what else would have to stop? All the federal money that trickles down from the White House and Congress into the states and then into the cities. All that federal money, all those dollars, all those tax dollars that hardworking Americans create would stop automatically. It would stop because there would no longer be a need for that stuff. So it would be a complete waste of time and money to keep funding strike forces and narc units and vice units and all these different investigative units that they create, that they say are there to really to police the drugs, the guns, and the violence, when the same people who are creating these police states are the ones that are putting the drugs, the guns, and creating the violence in these streets and whatnot. All of that stuff would cease and desist. That means the trickle down effect would be there'd be less need for lawyers, less need for judges, less need for corrections officers, less need for prison employees, secretaries, janitors, parole officers, and the people that work inside these buildings, their employees. There'll be less needs for clerks, courthouse workers, etc., etc., etc. All these people would all of a sudden be unemployed. So their employment rates would start to mirror the people of color employment rates, because they no longer have this system where they can create the need for all of these different workers to be in existence. And that's what I really base my premise on, that this whole thing is by design. Like they change laws, they create laws, they even break laws to make sure that people are chatteled into this system. Then when they get into the system of prison and crime and things like that, and they go to jail, pay their debt to society, finish probation, and all this, that, and the third, they really block you from employment. Like, me personally, I've been through that whole situation. Like, it's been years and years and years before I could find a job. And I'm college educated, and I wasn't just looking for I wasn't walking around denying jobs. I'd apply for everything from parking attendants to janitors to professional ass wipers, you know what I'm saying? And couldn't find a job forever. So the only logical conclusion to come to is that they really don't want people who get caught up in the system to better their lives, to get on the right path, to become a contributing citizen to society again. They really want you to stay in that whole cycle of recidivism, crime, jail, recidivism, crime, jail. They want you to keep going back to jail pretty much. So they really just block you from employment. They got all these different programs. They give tax breaks to corporations and all this, that, and the third, to say that if you hire ex-felons and things like that, oh yeah, we'll do this for you, we'll do that for you, but yet still all these felons are walking around without jobs. So that's one way that they keep the system going. So imagine if all these people of color just got off welfare all of a sudden as well. If there actually were jobs in this country and people didn't need welfare, there'd be more job loss on their side as well. The welfare places of employment, they would no longer be in existence because there's nobody on welfare. So why do we have to keep all these different welfare workers and all these different case workers and overseers and all this, that, and the third working at these different jobs? All of that money would just dry up because there would no longer be a need for it. But they don't want to do that because it's no incentive to them, because this system is what keeps them in power. So instead of making sure that drug addicts get off drugs, and they put them in jail instead of putting them in rehab, which doesn't make any logical sense to me, because you should want to keep people off of drugs. So why put them in jail when you can just put them in a rehab? Why not funnel all your money into bettering and uplifting people? That's the whole idea. It's the system that they want to keep going. They want to keep us in this mental and physical slavery. So they mess with our minds by keeping the drugs and all this, that, and the third out on the street. They oppress us. They keep us down. And that's a furtherance of messing with our minds and things like that. And that leads to the physical slavery, the jails, the prisons, and all this, that, and the third. That's why in this country, like, it's probably the highest, the fastest growing industry in this country at this point. I know a few years back it was like the third fastest growing industry, but now it's probably like the fastest growing industry in this country, and that's the private prison industry. That's why it's exploding like that, because they know for a fact that we're going to need somewhere to put all these people that's going to be going to jail. You know, they have things like some of these PSA, SSA tests that they give to kids and things in public schools and whatnot. They base how many cells they're going to need in the next 20 years off of certain scores from these standardized tests. That's amazing to me. So you're trying to tell me it's not a design, but you know in 20 years that you're going to need this amount of cells to house prisoners and things like that. And you know this because your standardized tests that are supposed to be good for our children tell you all this information. What does that say? Design, design, design. So they keep these drugs, they keep the guns, and they create the violence in these neighborhoods because they want to fill these prisons, because they want to fill their pockets, because this is their new slavery. This is what they're trying to do. It's not an accident. It's not a mistake. It's like that's why all the rappers that make it big are really talking about guns, drugs, and violence. That's why they make it big, because that's just another way, another tool that they're using to push that stuff into our minds, to keep reassuring us that this is the way, that this is what you want to do, that you have no hope in the world. So start selling drugs, or kill the next man for this and kill the next man for that. They create these ideas, the ideology in our mind, so that they can ensure that their plan is put in place. You think of conscious rappers like Cannabis, Immortal Technique, KRS-One, Lupe Fiasco, MIA. You think of these people, and they never made it big commercially, even though the rappers I just named, lyrically, way better than a lot of this junk and nonsense that we hear on the radio and whatnot. Way better lyrically. But they never make it big because we can't have the people waking up. These cats are trying to enrich minds and expand consciousness, so we can't have that, because if they don't hear about the guns, drugs, and violence, they're not going to sell drugs, shoot the guns, and kill each other. So then our jails are going to be empty, and then we're going to be sitting here with our dicks in the mud because we salty now, because we wasted all this money building these prisons, trying to get ready for this physical slavery, but these rappers is coming along trying to mess up our plans. But I'm going to get into that more later in the video. So, that's why I laugh when I argue with a lot of people who are normally black people that say stuff like, oh, well, there's always a choice. I mean, yeah, choice. There kind of is a choice, but there really isn't a choice. It's arbitrary, if you ask me. It's the illusion of choice. And I'm not the only person to say that, because I got that idea from research that I've done of doctors and scholars who are way smarter than me, way more educated than I am, and way more gifted in seeing this world for what it is, as opposed to what they want us to see this world in. There's really no choice, because they really have no incentive to end this thing. Their incentive is to keep it going so they can keep their lawyers, judges, cops, corrections officers, parole officers. Most of these people are white people. They want to keep these people employed. They want to keep these people above everybody else in their minds, so they keep going with these jobs and these things like that. They keep this stuff going. It's all a big plan. Now, what's one of the major things the problems that's in the black community? I know you heard the phrase crabs in a barrel, right? Well, that's one of the major issues amongst black people. There's no unity. We're like the only culture who doesn't have unity. White culture, Hispanic, Asian, Indian, not Native American, but Indian, Pakistan, India over there, all those type people. They all have a communal togetherness. They all have a unity and a strength in themselves that they promote. Even in religions, Judaism, these people, they all look out for each other. They all pick each other up when one falls. They don't put each other down. They fight and argue and do all that kind of nonsense amongst each other. But it's different when it comes to black people. When it comes to black people, it's like we're so mentally enslaved and entrenched in this ideology that we forget that the we is greater than the individual. Greed pretty much from the beginning has been the major tool that they've used to like separate us. The major tool that they've used to keep us apart and to break up the family unit, break up the communal effort, because they know it's a principle amongst all people, principle in the world. Together we stand, divided we fall. So once they landed on our shores, they used greed to bamboozle us. You think about back in slavery times, there was the house nigga, the field nigga. That was a subset of greed. They used to elevate one slave over another and then parade him in front of the other ones and created all this jealousy and things like that. Like, they have created such a thirst for money in us that we've been selling each other out since they first came along and bamboozled us into slavery. We like, when you look at black people today, a lot of people will say, well, you got the president of the United States, you got billionaires, you got chief of police, you got heads of Fortune 500 companies, the blue blood companies, big, huge, entire corporations, and black people are the head of them. You run the music industry, you run sports and everything like that. And I think about this, and it's like, yeah, we do. But when you look at the larger picture, it's like you look around these neighborhoods that these people come from. The rappers, the actors, the athletes, and the musicians and things like that that's making all this money. They come from these neighborhoods that are still run down, entrenched in violence, overly drugged, just lost. Just like the lost tribe walking around here like zombies. And that makes me wonder, like, how is that still possible when we have all these people of prominence and people in high office and people with gobs of money? Like, imagine if Oprah, Jay-Z, Beyonce, Bob Johnson, and whoever else, that's only a few names that just pop in my head right now. Imagine if they pulled some of their resources and created a bank. Like that movie, who was the name of that movie? Strictly Business. Them dudes that was doing business with the lead male character, they owned a bank. Like, we've been putting it in our movies and the ideas and solutions have been there all this time. But imagine if they pulled those resources and they started a bank with like a couple $100 billion, and they immediately released those funds into good, upstanding projects and efforts that would enrich and uplift our people. I hate to say just our people, but we need it the most, and we need to start from within before we can work without. Like the great Malcolm X said, we got to help each other before we accept help from others, or before we allow others to come in and plan and work with us. Imagine if they just started a bank. Why haven't they? Like, you can still make money. I don't get it. Why haven't they started a bank or something like that? Why haven't they gone through the hoods and bought up all the abandoned properties, city by city? Use black contractors and employ black people to build all of this stuff up and then sell it. Still at a profit, not at an enormous profit, not like pure capitalism that we exist under now. We don't have to sell everything at a 300 and 400% profit. But they still sold it at a profit to our people. It sounds wrong, but it's not wrong, because every other race does it. White people look out for white people, Chinese people look out for Chinese people, Jamaican people look out for Jamaican people, African people look out for African people. It happens, but the African Americans don't do it. But imagine if we did start doing it, because we have the resources. It's there. But for some reason, they're just not doing it. Again, more on that later. So, like, yeah, we have all these people of prominence. We have all these educated people and things like that. But African Americans, their dropout rates, their imprisonment rates, their recidivism rates, their poverty rates, their pregnancy rates, their HIV rates, all of these things are still skyrocketing. Probably the highest per capita amongst all the different races. Like, why is that still? I don't understand how that's still possible. I don't understand how our neighborhoods look like nuclear wastelands, but our lands are valued highly. Like in Philadelphia right now, Drexel, University of Penn, Temple, LaSalle, all these schools are like doing everything they can to buy up all the property surrounding these neighborhoods. It's called gentrification. So while the police and everybody they're arresting all the people that live in these neighborhoods, sending them to jail, the banks and the lawyers and everybody's coming in swindling other people out of their homes, and then that's leaving the door open for these schools and other investment properties, investment companies to come in, development companies to come in, buy up the property, tear it down, move all the black people out, and sell it to their own people, move their own people in. Like Philadelphia has this huge initiative going right now where they're trying to get all these different young business executives to come to the city. And what's happening is neighborhoods down there like Northern Liberties, the Temple area, the University City area. These neighborhoods, which were normally all black, riddled with crime, riddled with drugs. You go around there now, nope. It's like a whole nother land. Like 5-10 years ago, you didn't even want to be in some of these areas by yourself at night or of a different race. If you wasn't about that life, you didn't want to be in these areas. But now, who cares? It's cool. You can walk down the streets, leave your door open. I mean, you probably can't leave your door open, but you get the point I'm trying to make. Like, it's a totally different scenery. It's a totally different neighborhood because the gentrification is going on. They're moving all the people out that live there, that grew up there, and they're fixing these neighborhoods up, reestablishing them so that the property rates are going through the roof, and the people who were living there can no longer afford to buy and live in these neighborhoods, and they're petitioning and importing all these younger people of different races that weren't there to come on, live here. It's safe. It's beautiful. It's accessible. It's this. It's that. It's not a mistake. It's not an accident. You know what I'm saying? And I already talked about one of the potential solutions. But when I bring that stuff up, like me personally, I don't like Will Smith. He's from West Philadelphia, right where I grew up at. Can't stand the boy. You making all this money, and I look around this neighborhood, and I'm like, these kids never even seen you before today. But you have all this stuff to say about what's wrong with black people and what they should be doing, and this, that, and the third. Well, where are you at? Where's your presence in Philadelphia? And I could go down a list of how many people that's come from Philadelphia that are extremely successful. And I'm not saying that these people should go broke or should risk everything that they have, but you don't have to live this crazy life of extravagance in order for you to live a comfortable life. And if you're living so comfortably, why wouldn't you want other people to live comfortably? Why wouldn't you want to build up the others, especially from the neighborhood that you came from? And again, I'll keep repeating this. You can make money doing this. It's not like you're just giving the money away. And even if you do give the money away, the way our tax system is set up, you're still making money. Because any charity and all that stuff is a tax haven. You're getting the money right back. But they don't do it. And it makes me wonder. It makes me wonder why they don't do it. And there's a pretty good reason why they don't do it. Because they know that if they do start to do that stuff, that's when they're really going to lose their money. That's when they're going to lose their success. That's when they're going to lose their fame. Because they know about the design. They know, it might be an unspoken truth, but they know that, man, if I try to do too much, somebody going to take me out. Like look at Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, the Black Panthers, who are responsible for public schools getting free lunch, the WIC programs. I could go on and on and on. The Black Panthers started all that stuff. And people like J. Edgar Hoover, the FBI, CIA, cops around the nation, they didn't like it. A few other names, Angela Davis, Assata Shakur, Eddie Conway, who was just released from jail, Nelson Mandela, Mumia, who's from Philadelphia, These people, when they start to do too much, they take them out. It's either you're going to jail for the rest of your life or we're literally going to kill you. The Lex Street homicides, the Lex Street massacre happened in Philadelphia back in 1985. The MOVE organization. These people weren't a criminal organization or anything like that. They just didn't take the crack. They were living independently. Police, the Frank Rizzo generation type people, they felt threatened by this. So they bombed almost an entire city block. And as people were running out of a burning house, they shot them down. Men, women, and children. That's the length to which these people will go if you try to do too much to uplift the poor and black people. That's how far they'll go. But we sitting here saying, oh, it's not a design. You're just a conspiracy theorist. Really? Well, what do you call me when the conspiracy proves to be true? What do you say then? So, what's their, after greed, their next biggest tool that keeps us separated, that keeps us subdued, that keeps us entrenched in all these problems, in my mind, is the entertainment industry. Music, especially music. Especially music. Music is a powerful tool. You know, I'm wearing a Bob Marley shirt right now. And Bob Marley sung about it, how powerful of a tool that music is. Madonna, she said herself, music makes the people come together. She wrote a whole song about it. You know, music can touch your soul. Music can pull on strings of emotion that can move you in ways that nothing else can move you. But music can also be used to confuse you. It can also be used to control you. It can also be used to keep you in a situation that you might not even realize that you're in. So I want to focus on rappers because, you know, rap is very influential. If you don't believe me, that is very influential. You think back to the Public Enemy, the NWA days. I think it was Bob Dole's wife. I forget who it was, but it was one of them presidents, vice presidents, or presidential candidates' wives, or those people. Back might even been the Reagan people. It was a lot of black people back then too. They hated rap because the rap music was so powerful amongst the youth that they knew then, like, yo, we don't even control this rap industry, and these cats they're infecting our youth. Not just black youth, but white youth, Hispanic youth, all youth around the world. That's why they tried to crush gangster rap. That's why they went to changing laws and all kinds, like they normally do, change laws to get the result that they want to get, to make sure that gangster rap wouldn't exist. But then something happened. You know, there's information going around the internet, things like that, where there was a secret meeting held by a lot of different music executives and people of power and things like that, that said that, all right, you know what we're going to do with this rap? We're going to use this rap as our weapon. We're going to use what they believe is their weapon against them. We're going to use it to control them. That's what happened. So now that's how you get modern day rap. That's where the Lil Waynes and the Kanyes and the T.I.s and the Yo Gottis and the, God forbid, the 2 Chainz and the Trinidad James and the Chief Keefs and these other idiots out here who got a little bit of talent and can put some words together. I don't even really know if they writing this stuff themselves, but whatever. They got a little talent, can put some words together, and the only way they use that talent is to talk about nonsense. You know, like, did you know a lot of these rappers are like educated? They have college degrees, and not just no bullshit college degree like sociology or something like that. Like, I'm just gonna run some names down and degrees that these people have. And these are rappers that you all know. Run them down. Flavor Flav went to Adelphi University. He has a degree in radio communication. Lil Wayne, who's rumored to average a 4.0, has a degree in psychology from the University of Houston. Rod Digger, she went to the New Jersey Institute of Technology. Rick Ross went to Albany State University, something like that. Southern University, I don't know what it's called, but he has a business degree. David Banner, who doesn't really fall along the lines of the typical rat people, what I'm talking about, but he has a degree. Ludacris, graduate from Georgia State, music management. Paul Wall, University of Houston, degree. Plies, he's rumored to have a 4-year a nursing degree from the University of Central Florida. Nursing, I mean, okay, but whatever. Kanye West dropped out of Chicago State University. J. Cole, he has a graduation, he has a degree from St. John's in communication. Now, again, like David Banner, he doesn't really fall into that category of the kind of rappers that I'm talking about. But he does have one. Ice Cube, Phoenix Institute of Technology, architectural design degree. Like, that's major. That's not something minor. Ryan Leslie, my man went to Harvard. He has a graduate degree in government and econ. Dude's smart. He went to Harvard. Lil Jon, OSU, graduate, Ohio State University. 2 Chainz, Alabama State, another one that's rumored to have had like a 3.8 GPA. Now, if you listen to his raps, can you really tell? But he's an educated man. Stat Quo, I don't really know who that is, but University of Florida International, business econ degree. Cam'ron went to a Texas junior college. Little Romeo went to USC. Master P, University of Houston. Diddy graduated from Howard, which is like the Harvard of HBCUs. But could you really tell? I mean, I know we know this, but can you really tell? And I'm asking that for a point. Stolly went to University of Michigan. He's a rapper out of Rick Ross clique and whatnot. And Wale went to Bowie State. Continuing on, again, now these guys I'm naming right now, they don't fit the mold of what I'm talking about. But Talib Kweli, a graduate from NYU, experimental theater. Common went to Florida A&M. Chuck D, graphic design from Adelphi University, like Flavor Flav. I mean, really, seriously, how many people thought Flavor Flav was educated? Like, think about Flavor Flav. He's educated, smart, not a genius, but he's smart. MIA, I mentioned her again. She has a degree in fine art, video, and film from a school in London called St. Martin's. Gangstar has a business administration degree from Morehouse. Now, I brought those rappers and musicians up and their degrees and how educated they are up for a reason. Now, the reason I brought them up is because how often in their music do we hear them talk about education? How often in their music do we hear them say, go to school like I did, be smart? Maybe they didn't go right away, but when they got the money and the time, they went to school, got educated. But why don't they rap about that? They can rap about clubbing all night, drinking, smoking, which I'm not opposed to none of that. I'm not opposed to having fun. Now, everybody know me. I'm Puff Daddy. I'm the original Chief Keef. I get down. Y'all know me. But, again, I'm doing this right now. And I'm not famous. But I'm sitting here trying to encourage people to be educated, to keep your mind open, to take all this stuff that you see out here in the world, the music, the fashion, the get money over everything, all this stuff with a grain of salt. Not them, though. They're telling you the money over everything, money over family. I die for this shit. All that, that's what they're telling you. But they're not telling you about their educations. Why? Because they know for a fact that if they do, like Lupe Fiasco, like Cannabis, like KRS-One, like Talib Kweli, like Mos Def, like MIA, if they tell you that, like Tupac, if they tell you that, it's either going to spell the end of their life or the end of their career. And they want to make money more than anything. So they don't spit out, get a degree, go to school. They tell you to go stay on the block. They tell you to kill your neighbor or the next man that look just like you over a couple dollars. It confuses me. The information is right there. They talk about being these big time gangsters and thugs and all this, that, and the third. But all of them run around with security details. I know real gangsters. I know real thugs. They don't run around with no security detail. They hold their own. Because they really got people out here scared of them because they know this person ain't somebody to be messed with. But you got Rick Ross talking about, in his one song, I forget which song it is, but it's on his new album, Mastermind. At 17, I was charging niggas 17. Talking about selling a brick of coke for $17,000. Now, wait a second, Rick. You was a CO until you were 22 years old. So how in the hell is you rapping about charging somebody $17,000 for a brick when you really wasn't even on that type time back then? Nobody can vouch for you being on that type time right then. But you rapping about it though. Lil Wayne talking about holding down all these blocks and moving all these bricks and all this, that, and the third. But he been in the music industry since he was 12 years old. 12. Getting kissed on the lips by a baby since that's another topic of discussion for a later date. But getting kissed on the lips from baby. Baby look at him, oh, that's my son. That's why I kissed him on the lips. But you talking about being this big time thug and drug dealer and killer and all this, that, and the third. No, you not. I don't believe it. That's why when who was it, the GDs? I think it was the Gangsters Disciples was telling Rick Ross, yo, if we see you in our hood, you either gonna pay up or we gonna check you. For real. They had the boy scared, for real. He had the song, I Got a Chopper in the Car. But when somebody bust off at him while he was riding in his car, police pulled him over, he called the cops. He ain't had no guns. He didn't shoot back. None of that. They bust at him. And nothing happened. But he this big time gangster, this big time drug lord, kingpin, all this, that, and the third. Same thing with the Bloods. The only reason the Bloods ain't got at Baby and Wayne in them is because they paying. They paying their money to keep them dudes off their top. Because in the blood set and all that, you can't be running around claiming it's 5-star general, screaming at Sue Woo and all this, that, and the third, and somebody not going to pull your card. And they have pulled their card. There's the rumors out there. It's really happened probably. This probably went in certain hoods and they was like, hold up. Let me talk to you for a second. All this nonsense you speaking on your music and all this, that, and the third, show forth, show proof. Where it's at. You earned them tears? You earned them tears you got tattooed on your face? I ain't never heard about it. So you either come out your pockets or they gonna take it out your ass. So I'm pretty sure them dudes is coming out their pockets. But they all gangsters. They talk about not snitching, not ratting. T.I. got caught, already a felon, buying military issued assault weapons. That'll get you 15 with no priors. My man did a year. You think he ain't telling nobody? Lil Wayne, on his bus, he got drugs, guns, all kinds of stuff. Then 9 months. You think somebody didn't take the rap for him? Pimp C died, right? And it was rumored that Pimp C was running around pulling people cards. He was saying a lot of these rappers, number one, they're homosexuals, this, that, and the third. Number two, they don't live the life that they said they live. They don't move these bricks. They don't have these connections. They not big time nothing, this, that, and the third. Next thing you know, Pimp C dead. Tupac, same thing. It was rumored that Quincy Jones had approached him. Him and L.A. Reid, back in the day, had approached him about that whole homosexual thing in the music industry. Like, yeah, what's up? You gonna get down? And Pac was like, no. As a matter of fact, he was ratting them out. Doing interviews, all kinds of stuff. And next thing you know, Pac dead. All that gangster rap and all that stuff, he had been doing that for years, his whole career. And he never died behind it before. So it just finally caught up with him. Or, maybe I'm just a conspiracy theorist. But you got to think about all this stuff. You got to think about the lengths that this government will go to take down the people who are really trying to uplift the people. I think about J. Edgar Hoover and how he went at Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, the Black Panthers, how he went at them cats. You know, he always had spies. It's stories around that Jesse Jackson was the one who let them know about where Dr. King was going to be. Jesse Jackson was the man that ratted him out, said, look, it's that and third. It's where you're going to be. This is the agenda, this is the itinerary. This is how you can get it done to kill Martin. J. Edgar Hoover single-handedly made sure that the Black Panther Party went down. But what about the KKK? He didn't go after them. They was wreaking all kinds of havoc in the country for way longer than the Black Panthers were, but he never went after them. And we don't think about these things. We don't think that we look at it as a conspiracy. When I'm like, yo, it's right here in front of you. Like, this is what they're doing. This is what they're trying to do. This is their plan. They are not playing no games. But I get ridiculed when I say stuff like that. And it's funny that I get attacked most by my own people, my own race. When I'm just trying to let them know, like, yo, this is what I found out. Now I'm telling you what you mad at me for. You know, you think about all the African American studies programs in all these different universities. I participated in one, like a de facto one at the school I went to. And I swear to God, I looked around those classes. It might have been 1, 2, 3 other black people outside of myself in a classroom of 30 people, 40 people, 50 people. That was a minority. Most of the classes in African American studies, James Baldwin, religion courses, things like that, most of them were of different races, white, Asian, just taking the course as an elective, or who knows, God knows. A couple of my homies teach in African American studies programs, and I went and sat in on their classes, and it's not predominantly black students in those classes. And that kind of troubles me. You know, it troubles me how black people won't support black-owned businesses, saying that they have bad service. Really? Bad service? But you go to a Chinese store and you buy food from people serving you behind bulletproof glass. But that's not bad service, though. You know, you go to the poppy stores, who the meat that they're serving you, the products they're serving you, like, you think their prices are low because they like you? No, their prices are low because they getting that stuff for the low. And they're getting it for the low because it's either outdated or it's just straight up bad for you. And the people that own these places, they keep the stuff low. They keep those numbers low. Because you have to think, all these people, they have somebody over them. They're getting their product from somewhere else. The music industry is owned by the same people who are buying private prisons, the same people who own the banks, own Wall Street, and they're swindling everybody out of their money. The same crooks, it's the same devils. They own the music industry as well. And you think that they're not going to use that tool to further their dominance over us? You think they're going to give us the best food products out there? I mean, you can't watch the news. You can't go to the news 1 week nowadays without some beef being recalled, some food product being recalled, chicken product being recalled, lettuce, something like that, because it's salmonella, some kind of food poisoning, or the toys are defective, and all this stuff we buying from China, instead of having these corporations and manufacturing industries right here in our country where people need jobs. They allow these corporations to outsource all this employment, and the products and stuff we're getting back is not good for us. It's not healthy. It's killing us slowly but surely. And it's not by mistake. China don't really like us. They don't really like the United States of America. They want to be big dogs on the planet. So it ain't no accident, if you ask me, that every time they make a product, is something found wrong with it that's killing a baby, or a kid got strangled in a stroller or something because of a faulty this or faulty that. car products, breaking down, recalling cars, back and forth, all kinds of nonsense. I mean, what's up with that? I mean, you really think it's an accident? You really think that's all coincidence? I've been talking for 45 minutes about stuff that I can back up. And you still going to sit here and try to convince me that it's coincidence, that I'm just a conspiracy theorist. Nah, man. It ain't no conspiracy. The conspiracy is to keep your mind, your eyes veiled to all of this, to keep your mind blocked. That's the conspiracy. But the actual plan of what's going on, you look at it through all industries. The banking industry, Wall Street, the justice system. I mean, these cops can do whatever they want to do. Beat your ass down and get found not guilty for it. They'll say that them arresting you was wrong, but the subsequent ass whooping that you receive, oh no, that was okay. What? Shoot people down in cold blood. You get a couple weeks off paid leave while they investigate and get found not guilty. And you think that's an accident. Nah, they're pretty much telling these cops it's open season. Go ahead, do what you want to do. We got your back. We're going to make sure nothing happens to you. You want to go on vacation? Go shoot one of these young brothers out here in the street. Don't even got to plant a gun or drugs or nothing on them nowadays. Go ahead, shoot one. Give you a couple weeks off, paid, come back, right to your job. Maybe work a desk job for a little bit, but you come right back. And what kind of ideology you think that creates in their mind? They're untouchable, like the overseers in the past or in the plantations. The masters wasn't the ones. It was the overseers. Those were the guys that were doing all the atrocities. Those were the guys that were doing all the rapes and the murders and the hangings and the burning at the stakes and the castrations it was the overseers. And who you think the new overseers are? The same people out here that's raping, murdering you, beating you to death, beating you to near death, and doing whatever they want to do to you and getting away with it. So I guess, it's time for me to close. I'm sorry if I got a little long-winded, but there was just a lot that I wanted to say, and there was a lot that I didn't say, if you can believe it or not. Like, I'm flipping through these pages, and yeah, there was a lot that I left out. But I hope this video touches somebody. I hope this video helps somebody along the way. I don't even really know what I'm trying to get out of all of this. Like, I don't know. Or maybe I just don't want to say it. But something has to change. People got to wake up. We got to band together. I'm not telling everybody to quit their jobs or any of that. I mean, that could be a start because, again, the system won't work without our compliance. They can't do anything without our compliance. They can't kill us all. They can't lock us all up. But I'm not telling you to do all that. It could start with something small. If 100 million people did something small, we could change the whole landscape of this country. We could change everything. But for some reason, we just don't. And I guess I hope that's what this information that I'm giving to you that I've learned. And I encourage you, research it, find out for yourself. Don't take my word for it. I know nothing. And that's one thing I know is I don't know shit. That's why I read every day as much as I can. That's why I speak to as many people as I can and try to learn as much as I can because I know I really don't know jack shit. But I want everybody else to think like that too. You don't know jack shit. So try to find out something about something. Peace and love, man. From my heart, my lips to your mind. One.